dance moves. That's why we're in this workshop. It's called Dance Your Lunch Off, hosted by the Office of Tribal Affairs from CDSS. They pay us to do some great things, fun things at times, but thank you for joining us. I'm Stephanie Weldon. If you didn't know who I am, I'm the director of the Office of Tribal Affairs. And today we're going to talk about the work that's going on in the field at both the county, through county requests and tribal requests, but what our team has to offer, as well as the work and the types of complaints and technical assistance questions that are coming in. And we're going to also cover last year's field survey that was done strengthening ICWA practice that tribes and counties participated in, and to further talk about strategies. And hopefully we'll get to a true activity around some of the key areas of technical assistance that we often hear about. We're going to split you up into a couple of groups and have you work through those at the tail end. So please stay if you can, because the work that you do, we're actually going to utilize as tools to inform some of those same questions and what we're doing as well. So we have our field liaisons here, but I think that we have to take a pause and make sure we're good.
I'm going to work on getting rid of that little screen there. But continue. Please. How do I get rid of that little box? Cool.
We're really high tech here, as you can tell.
I don't know. Where did that come from?
Yeah, that's Jack's audio.
Maybe that person could do it. Move our mouth. I do get a little goofy in the afternoon. The music is doing it.
So literally it says room talk. Maybe it's 'cause
They named it. Yeah, they named it.
And then
Do we
re-advance the slide.
Do we want to, what about, who will be monitoring Jeff? We will have somebody else monitoring and then I will come back in, okay?
I'm gonna help with it.
So here is the slide.
I'll do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank
Deborah.
you.
Can they see us? or no?
Yeah.
I don't think they can see you unless you're right in this view.
I will
Go for it.
change the chair.
Good. Yeah, you're fine. You just can't see yourself. Oops. I just have to. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, now we can try again and start again. We are the Office of Tribal Affairs within the California Department of Social Services. And we have part of our team out here, but today we're going to focus primarily on the work that's done out in the field. And again, as a reminder, the Office of Tribal Affairs is a part of CDSS, but was rooted and developed as part of tribal consultation to strengthen not only ICWA, but a whole range of input and engagement into tribal affairs work as it relates to social services in general. We do 80%, I would say, of our work is focused on advising around the Indian Child Welfare Act. And we like to think of our work as in kind of twofold. We have external work, which our field liaisons really focus on the practice and what goes on externally. Internally, we call the work as how we advise internally. And so those two connect. And what we're going to share today is the type of work that's being asked. You all know because you experience the lack of or the challenges with ICWA that occur day to day. And our field liaisons are going to take a bigger approach and share with you the kinds of requests they're getting throughout the state and how they address those requests, as well as how they may and do really link internally. And so with me today, I have our two field liaisons. We have 4 positions now, 2 of which are vacant, and Laila actually is serving as a dual role in that she's still doing a little bit of the field work, but primarily she's our manager right now, helping develop process and really helping get us organized and connect to the internal work. So that's just kind of a reminder of the broad view of what we do. And again, the key pieces that we focus on are engaging, enhancing, and advising both externally and internally. And so we have the responsibility again to build better relationships. And really oftentimes we have to translate the perspective into language or help people who don't come from our communities know, to know better what not only the laws, but the worldview, the experiences. And we do a lot of advising in a way to help them understand. We try to, and it's not an easy job. I'll tell you that. We partner. For some people, they get it very easily with the tools we utilize and the training we provide them and the coaching. And for others, it's a really, it's a heavy lift for us at times because we coach at all different levels. And we advise multiple different folks in different levels of the state, but often many of those folks have never done practice work or they don't know about ICWA and it's intimidating for some of them. And so what we are is we tell them we are your safe place to learn this. So you in turn can do the work and have the oversight responsibility and have meaningful discussions with counties about how it should be done. And so we're a translator of sorts in some ways. And we don't necessarily have the oversight of the counties, but we play a big role in helping CDSS better understand that. So again, we were established in 2017. So we're still fairly new. And this last year has been an evolving year of transition as our first ever director, Heather Hostler, moved on. And we had some other staff leave. And so we took this as an opportunity to kind of rebuild, as well as the Children and Family Services Division, longtime Deputy Director Greg Rose, who did a lot of work and partnered and developed relationships with many of you, retired, and new director Angie Swartz came in. So it was definitely a time to build and rebuild or establish our relationships. In the meantime, our field liaisons were growing and developing their work and we're fielding a lot of questions. So that's kind of the snapshot and the overview. I'm really gonna not do much more talking and really leave the work to share and the discussions with our strong field liaisons who are out there with all of you. And if you haven't met them, they're going to introduce themselves and they'll be reaching out to you in the field very, very soon. So I'm going to hand it over to Laila and she'll speak more about the data and the work that they're doing. Thank you.
That music. Can you see? I know if you see me start to dance on here, you'll know why. It's good afternoon, everyone. I'm Laila DeRouen, and I was hired on as the central ICWA field liaison. And like Stephanie mentioned, I'm the current acting manager. I'm a member of Dry Creek Grand Tria Band of Pomo Indians, and I came aboard OTA in February of last year. And are you going to introduce yourself here? Or
Sure, yeah. Hi,
Okay.
I'm Donald Rodriguez.
come over here so
I
they
am the
can see you?
Southern ICWA Field Liaison. Gabrielina Shoshone, which is a non-fully recognized tribe out of LA, living down here in Kumeyaay land for past 11 years now, and have been with OTA for 2 years. Prior to that, I was with San Diego County. Shout out to San Diego County. Working there for 8 years within their Indian Specialty Unit, while also doing trainings for Tribal Star. And prior to that, I was up in the Bay Area with the American Indian Child Resource Center with Mary Trimble Norris. And she was setting me straight on what I need to do for ICWA. So all to be here and to try to push forward this very important work. Yeah.
Go, Donald. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, so the map on the screen, it shows a breakdown or regional breakdown for the field liaisons and the counties and tribes that each of the field liaisons serve and support and provide technical assistance for. Oh, right. And Stephanie just reminded me, this is also the same regional breakdown utilized for the Tribal Advisory Committee and how the members are established and come from each of those regions as well. It does mirror the BIA's geographical boundaries. So some people always ask, why is Central so large? We have the Bureau to thank for that. And, all the field liaisons, well, when we had a third one, we all live and work in the communities that we serve. So we feel like that's one of our, biggest assets is coming from the community and of course being a part of it. And we always look forward to keeping those relationships and, utilizing that when we're here up at the state level. Go ahead, Taylor. So field liaisons, come on in. We have 4 main priority areas. The first being strengthening relationships between tribes, CDSS, and counties. The second priority area is to provide technical assistance to counties and tribes for ICWA implementation. Third priority area is to provide training. And the fourth priority area is to collect and report on data. And so we are going to spend some time going over the technical assistance requests coming from the field, as well as introducing the strengthening ICWA practice survey that was sent out last year. Okay, so make sure I don't forget anything. Field liaisons, we get to be out in the field, work hand in hand with direct service providers and practitioners, again, for with tribes and counties. And to attend these regional ICWA roundtables and work groups, this is one of the most consistent ways that we get to engage with counties and tribes. We get to attend and participate at roundtables, as well as offer support and guidance for establishing new roundtables or new work groups. On the screen is a list of the current operating ICWA roundtables and work groups happening throughout the state. And of course, we hope to see this list continue to grow. If you are thinking about establishing a roundtable, of course, please reach out and connect with us. We'd love to support the work and helping bridge some of those connections. And
if you want to join too,
yeah,
just let us know.
We oftentimes too, if there's a county who hasn't really been connected or they don't have a roundtable close by, we'll reach out and let them know, hey, so-and-so county also has one. Would you like to come and participate and observe and see if there's any of the work going on here that you would like to duplicate, or if you have more questions, and really just trying to connect counties with all of the good work that's going on, right? So that they can learn from each other, so that they can ask questions, so that they can see the progress and other developments that are happening throughout the state. And likewise, if we know that a county and tribe or tribes and counties are doing good work together, we will of course let other counties and tribes know that as well, and try to interface and share, the progress, so that maybe we don't have to duplicate everything, right? And so again, it's about letting everyone know what's going on out in the field, sharing the good work, making those connections, bringing folks in who might not have been connected before. Okay, so our second priority area is to provide technical assistance, again, to counties and tribes for ICWA implementation. We have a focus on inquiry, notice, active efforts, and placement. We have identified a ICWA point of contact at each county child welfare agency, as well as, sorry, the music is a little bit distracting. I was like, okay, sorry guys. I wanted to say that, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Where was I at? Oh, the ICWA points of contact. Yeah, we're really hoping to better define that role and the responsibilities and the expectations that those ICWA points of contact will have. We feel like that could be a really valuable tool and asset, and we will utilize that as one method for continuing to disseminate the information from OTA and just CDSS in general. Other avenues that we are considering, of course, is looking at training for management and supervisors and above, because we have heard that from the field that we are missing that piece of training, right? And so again, everything that we hear in the field, we take back to our team and we look at like, well, what do we have or what don't we have? And how do we get to where there's some gaps, right? So next slide, please.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about the ICWA point of contact? So folks in here that may not know about that, know what currently how they function or what they do?
Okay.
I'm just throwing her curveballs in the middle of her presentation.
That is not in our presentation.
not-
Just kidding.
So we'll talk a little bit about that. The ICWA points of contact were designed, oh, golly goodness.
Or come over here, please.
You sit there and
I'll
just
sit-
smile.
yeah, okay.
So the ICWA points of contacts were initially identified as having a point person at each county who would field questions and be kind of the go-to within the county agency. And so really the goal is to have maybe a type of expert or one centralized place to coordinate. Not that they're the be all end all, it's that they're the facilitator and ensure that there's follow through and especially amongst their team members to help them do that. So we're going to relaunch a letter because what we see oftentimes is, and the county self-identified through their ICWA point of contact is for both tribal affairs and amongst the tribes. And we know that some counties have ICWA specialty units, but we still ask that each county have a point of contact. And it's somebody that is more familiar with ICWA and can help advise their peers and make sure there's a connection to leadership. That's one of the strengthening areas that we want to make sure we communicate and help counties identify that whoever is their key person needs to have regular communication with where decisions are being made. So they can say, hey, we're kind of getting kind of similar to OTA that we're getting things of these things that are unresolved. Oftentimes systems so big that if the leadership isn't engaged with tribes, that they may not always know. I could say a lot of things, but folks may not always know where they are at with the relationship, and it's another support, but for the county to utilize and to have. So the field liaisons do know who all the points of contact are. So outside of this workshop, if you're not sure, they can share with you who was identified for your county. And then there are some counties who have identified somebody, but they're not really functioning in that way. So we have a lot more support we want to offer for those counties to help strengthen those points of contact.
Okay, on the screen now, is a sample list of some of the reoccurring types of technical assistance requests that have come in to field liaisons from over the past 2 years. And this includes everything from counties asking for updated contact for tribes to teaching what further and continued inquiry looks like, to providing qualified expert witness referrals or a contact for them, improving overall tribal engagement and just how do we even connect? How do we reach out to the tribe? How can we invite them to the table? How can we build a better relationship? How can we start a roundtable? How can we start a protocol? How can we train together? Can we review, department policies or procedures or just practice in general? Where can we go for just different types of ICWA questions that they don't know where else to turn to, basically. And go ahead, Tamara. Okay, and then the last priority area, which again, we are going to spend some time on next, is the discussion on the data that we've collected from the technical assistance requests coming from the field. And I think you are up.
Can I just add to the technical
Yes.
assistance?
Mhm.
So Laila gave a lot of examples of kind of on the ground, very specific, some of them seeming easy, but they also get a ton of requests that almost are and oftentimes are complaints as well. And some pretty systematic issues and pretty deep core foundational ICWA concerns. And it's not always coming from the tribe. They'll share more, they'll get more into that, but they also get those requests from the county as well. And so we're going to talk more about that process and what that looks like and kind of the themes and go from there.
So this is the data that we've been doing since January of this year. And Heather, I hope you really are interested in this part because you may be the only data nerd that might be, yeah, this is what we're doing. All right. So basically what we've done is any technical assistance that comes in, we log it down on our little spreadsheet and we calculate it on first of all, how many TA requests come in. So in January, there was 57, and then we kind of break it up and who are the ones that were asking for the help. So in January, we have 55% of those being from counties, 28 from tribes, 16 ICWA stakeholders, and 1 from CDSS, 1%. So of course, we would like to see that 1% really increase from internally, right? Because we know internally within our state, we need a lot of assistance sometimes. And that other slide was just like where the counties were asking for help. But it's not necessarily that county really needed a lot of help. It was just that they have really good relationships with us, as San Diego and LA. They're always asking, like, and Mendo and Sonoma are really know how to get a hold of Laila. So you're going to see a lot more requests from there, and hopefully, and hopefully we're going to want to see more from different Rio counties. So of those requests in January, 84% of those were ICWA specific, right? And 31 being tribal engagement, like, I can't get a hold of this tribe. Can you help me? I have a court date coming up, and we still haven't heard back from the tribe. So we do our best to try to get connected with the tribe or the county worker. Again, so the next like 10 slides are basically all of this as far as the numbers are concerned. So if we want to just like scroll through
Very slow.
and if anybody has any questions specifically about the types of TA, and I see Ms. Diamond over there with a hand up.
Repeat the question first.
Okay, so Jet's asking, how do we define ICWA stakeholder, right? So ICWA stakeholder is not necessarily from a tribe, but definitely has a tribal interest, such as maybe a consortium, thank you, or a foster family agency that, like Tribal Oak Tree, has a little table outside the desk here, or an advocate, like we have. Thank you. Keep going.
I said, or a minor's
Or a
attorney.
minor's attorney, maybe such as yourself. So yeah, that would be our ICWA stakeholders. So yeah, and this is April. And again, the main thing to see here is that inquiry and notice are the big questions that we're getting, the requests that they're asking for help. Yeah. What kind of questions involve inquiry? There's some examples that we have written out later on, but for example, no, it's basically like, here's a family. Sometimes we say, here's a family to give us date of birth and the address.
Like we're
Is this family part of your tribe?
OTA, where?
And then so, but what that says is that there's a lack of understanding of what that really means, right? So we have to go in and give them a whole bunch of different job aids and kind of explain to them what that inquiry process is, and send them that ICWA desk reference guide and let them know, hey, this is how you would conduct proper inquiry.
We paper them,
Basically, yes, we
we
definitely
cover them with paper. when they do
cover
that.
them, but let them know that we are here to help, and this is how you would do it, this is how you should do it, and this is how it's done by statute. So
We're glad they're asking, even though we're not a tribe, we're glad they're asking.
yes, definitely.
On the flip side to that though, too, it could also be, we have a family identified 1 tribe, 2 tribes, 3 tribes, 4 tribes, 5 tribes. How can I get in touch with those? And they might not even know where to start on how to connect or contact, the tribe to start that process. Was there another? That sounds like yes.
Yep.
Yes. So we do get a lot of questions around reason to believe versus reason to know. Have we done our due diligence? What other questions should we be asking? Who should we be asking? So there's a lot of coaching around that right at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Now, is it up to the court to notify the individual tribes, or is it up to the?
The notice responsibility is with the county or probation office, but the court is responsible for ensuring that it's done. So the court will also go in and hopefully look through the file and make sure that all the proper notices are attached where they're supposed to be attached. Typically, well, what I've seen is the ICWA 030 form is used in the formal noticing of the tribe, which would be the kind of overall what we've gathered from our inquiry phase about the family. Who are the paternal relatives? Who are the maternal relatives? And everything is listed out on this form, which shows then the court, hopefully, that proper inquiry has happened and notice has occurred, because then there's the proper mailing stuff is all attached that is required under the law.
Liz?
Yeah, I had a question with regard to the information on the notice. So, are you guys also building information and taking data? If we call in and say, look, we just received 60 notices this week and they all need more information before we can respond. I mean, we don't want to overwhelm you guys, but that's the kind of stuff that we receive. You know, we work for a consortium of 6 tribes, and so we get 6 times the amount of notice that comes in. And if one of those is not filled out correctly, it's very hard for us to do research for those 6 tribes. Do you want to know how they're not filling them out correctly, or do you want to know? This is where I want to help you guys collect the data, but we need to know what you need, because we've got lots of stuff to share with you.
Yeah. I think potentially that could be, not that I would want the field liaisons doing, there's probably enough for them to do that full time. But I think instances and names of counties so we can reach out for TA. And I think that would help inform our new strategic plan for having capacity to do that, because I would much rather hear from, if I were a county or responsible for overseeing county staff, I would want to hear that from OTA rather than get it in court or have something else go on to do it right. You know, so I think maybe developing some tools we could, here's how you properly fill out, and you know, really doing, I know you all do some of that verbally already. So that is something we could do. So we do want to hear from that, because we're hearing it from counties. They're saying, how do we do this? So the more numbers, the other thing that data serves is also ways to justify additional trainings or resources. And so the more we have data, we can explain there's still a learning gap in this area and we need, you know, training. We need to develop training on this, or it helps point to the why this is happening, or it helps give some explanation as to what's going wrong. And oftentimes, as we know, social workers or whoever don't often get that training. People have, you know, we hear all the reasons, but then the slowing down to show the training on how to and why it's important to do it. So most definitely.
Can I add something?
Could we ask that you, I'm sorry, can you hear us virtually? Could we just ask that you paraphrase the question so that those of us who are virtual can understand the context behind your answer? Thanks.
Got you, Bea. Thanks.
We will. Do you hear us through the microphone or just through the computer?
We can hear your responses perfectly, just not what the audience is asking.
Okay. So the question that came through is, what kind of data do you need or want a OTA to help support what work you're doing, recognizing that you're a staff of 4? They didn't say that. The audience did not say that, but that was the gist. It was implied. I actually wanted to get on the microphone to ask back, what do you think would help you do your job? What would you like to see OTA collect and do to support you in the work that you're doing? Because we don't want to be wasting our efforts. Like, we're recognizing that everyone in this room is already someone who holds like 3 jobs in just your regular job description. And so what we'd like to do is support the work in a targeted and focused way. So what is going to help you is an abundance of incomplete notices sent to OTA going to be the thing that you really want us to focus on? And if that is the case, let us know. And that's what the whole survey was about. Where do you want us to spend our time? Because the more we show that we're needed and wanted in the role that we're doing, it will help support a more robust approach to this, not just tribal affairs, but ICWA compliance statewide.
And maybe we don't need notices, but themes that you're getting are the numbers. And then we can say, wow, we've heard in the last quarter, there's X number of tribes receiving this many notices where folks don't know how. And it helps to prioritize, you know, our work.
I just respond real quickly. So
Oh, yeah.
And point out the county too.
I think there's various counties, but, I guess in response to that, what we have done as part of our research, when we have to research whether or not it's one of our tribal children, is we're calling back the legal clerk, or we're calling back the social worker, whoever's signing the document. We want to make sure we call them back and we let them know, look, we missed this information here, and in order for us to do proper research for enrollment, we need to know, or eligibility, we need to know, this information. So here's our name, here's our number, tell us how we can help you. Because,
Yeah.
you know, you want to respond, but you have to
Give us more info.
And we'll show you how to do it, we'll tell you how to ask the question, but those are things, and I think it then we've gone to some of the legal clerks and did a training for them, but it also requires the court clerk, or it might social worker, or it might require the investigating social worker, so there's many people.
You
and
touched
we're
that
not
030.
filling out the form, but it could be just the legal department.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, that's good. Good feedback. We have a hand over there. You want to walk?
Sure. Actually, go ahead and speak up and
We'll say it in the mic.
I guess there's a mic kind of
COVID
sharing
rule.
situation. that we're-
Oh.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And, we have not heard the invitation to contact.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and we often have questions, you know, about how to do it, how to, you know, come up with us. And I know there's 6 offices like mine, and, so I'm super excited to bring them back.
Yes, absolutely. And we are
Let's
just
paraphrase.
stepping, we're
Paraphrase.
just stepping into adoptions as we begin working with Laurel. So absolutely, we are available because I'm sure we would be very excited to help you identify some strategies, because when you probably get cases, there's probably a whole host of ICWA things that didn't occur. We'll just say that we're happy to help, and whatever questions, absolutely. And the question, I forgot to paraphrase, the question was about excitedness to hear that we have technical assistance available as some of the regional adoption offices really would like to reach out, so.
Yeah, and then to hear that, well, we're really the only 2 that are taking all this data, but really inundate us with the data, because the more that we're doing and logging down, then the more it will show that we need more resources, right? So please let us know any questions. Yeah.
Data collecting and trying to are like so great. That is direction. Thinking about like trying to build the expertise within each county. I know that some counties, one has had like ICWA social worker. Social workers specifically specialize in ICWA and work on ICWA. And there are a couple of county law firms in the state that have ICWA court in LA County. So I'm just curious if there is data really collected about like from those stories or like from those kinds that have those specific conditions about like whether there's more high rate of success in being minority.
So with programs that have ICWA systems, like ICWA units or things like, or designated ICWA social worker, are the numbers better within those counties or within those systems?
Yeah, that was it.
That was it.
Are we collecting good data? Are things where it is working?
Does
There-
the data show it's working well?
I think it's like 3 questions, I think. that you asked.
And I think overall, we know that's a lack of data, right? So, and then we know that the data within CMS is inherently flawed as well. And we're gonna show, actually, might as well do that right now. The ICWA data share out was just to like shout out to like Mendo and Sonoma County for the ones that are actually sharing their data with tribes. as well as San Diego, Riverside, San Bernardino, and Orange County. They're also sharing their data. But here, in regards to your question, this little button right here is causing lots of problems. This is the button that will actually indicate if a county has actually asked that question, that inquiry question. Do you happen to have any Native American ancestry? Because if you do, there's extra services that could be afforded to you, and you'd be followed under the Indian Child Welfare Act. But this data component is not a required field, and you actually have to scroll down within this system in order to click on it. And if you don't click on it, then it automatically defaults to not being asked, which will then show up in the state county data as it has over, I think it was 500,000 or 50,000, 50, yeah, thank you. I always add a zero to that. The 50,000 of the cases in California were showed up as not being asked. And there are some counties that this little button, 65% of their cases are showing as not being asked. So right now, as far as what we're doing, this is like a big promotion campaign to let counties know that this is a problem within the system that they're working in. And there's supposed to be a new system to come out, which we've been hearing for a long, long time now. But and that's supposed to be fixed on that end. But there's also the data folks know that this is an issue because it was brought up within one of our roundtables at the 7th generation roundtable. And so Travis brought that up and we're like, hey, this is a problem. So yeah, hopefully that answered your question. But
After that, let's go to chat.
okay, when I was in the Indian specialty unit, we only focused on those tribal cases. It's a double-edged sword. Like, I think we did great work, but at the same time, it caused the rest of the county to be like, oh, we don't have to know about ICWA because we have an ICWA unit already. So there's that component as well. So
Yeah, so your question has sounds like lots of questions. They do try to collect good data, but we are mostly focused on gaps of what's not working because there are so many components that we need to attend to. But when there is positive work, we do share that. I think as the system, the new system comes online, that data will probably be better. We can look at. But the other thing to acknowledge around this huge, what they call a fatal flaw, is they're drafting an ACL. Actually, CFSD, Children and Family Services Division, is working, and the CWDS, I believe, are working on drafting an ACL all-county letter to counties to explain that they need to do this, else it's going to result in poor data. And in the interim until then, and so it will be available for feedback and output. They want to get this out right away so counties know this is important and you need to do that.
Can I ask a question really quick or make a point, Donald? I know in San Diego, we had shared,
Somebody.
can you hear me?
oh, yeah,
Well-
just 1 second, Bea. Just 1 second. We got
Yeah.
a question coming up too. So. But we'll get right back to you.
I'm not sure, but
Repeat
we
the question.
The question was, in the new system, is this going to be a mandatory field? And that's the expectation and the hope.
Yeah.
But
exactly. Can you repeat
exactly.
what she said?
Yeah, so she's saying is that, yeah, the more feedback that we get from the tribal community and the community in general, even within counties, and counties are reaching out to us and explaining how difficult it is. And they want to put in good data, but the system that they've been given to put this data in is inherently flawed. But yeah, all that feedback will be tossed up to the folks that are creating the system. And Bea, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm just kind of wondering across the state, or maybe even just in Southern California, since you are our lead contact for that. If we are including like guardianship cases and voluntary cases in some of those data pools, because I'm just curious because they're not necessarily like the voluntary cases are not necessarily court cases. So maybe we don't have an ICWA finding. Are you seeing that other counties are accounting and also updating for both of those demographics? And then I just want to PS and say that in San Diego, I've made it my mission and I've actually cleaned up 1,500 cases myself and gone through all of our court records and everything and cleaned it up. So the next time you see numbers from San Diego, they will be clean or cleaner. And we've kind of established a way to how are we going to maintain that moving forward? Because we'll continue to get cases and we'll continue to inquire. We just need to make sure that we are, we have somebody that is going to be clicking that button, because we know that we're inquiring about ICWA in all of our cases and documenting in other places. Just not that button necessarily.
Great, thank you,
That's
babe.
great. Can we take some chat questions real quick?
Yeah. Definitely want to say something quick
Okay, go ahead.
about the voluntary cases.
I'm not sure if all counties are doing that consistently or not and how it's pulled, but that's definitely something we can take back and also to advise as a part of the ACL. I would, from my perspective, I would say yes, it should be, because ICWA applies to all of those cases. And so it should be done whether it's a court case or not, but I'm reserving that and talking about it internally about what the advisement, what the difficulties with that might be, but it would seem that we would have a uniform process.
Can I just do the chat? So I just wanted to direct everybody really quickly to the chat, because we don't want to miss our virtual friends out there. We have a comment from the Bureau of Indian Affairs Pacific Regional Office Branch of Social Services. Would like to offer / establish a reoccurring training event for state / county agencies / workers on BIA / federal ICWA - notification / inquiry policy, and working together. That's the lawyer in me. To fully inform, streamline, and reconcile the process so that the state requirements are met as well as federal requirements. Federal and state ICWA notification inquiry policies would almost seem to directly conflict with each other. Interesting comment. And then somebody says, how do we get in contact with you about the BIA training? I'm not sure if we want to talk about the conflict there. I just want to point out, or maybe Jesse could explain what he thinks the conflict is. And then I just want to make sure we're not missing anything in chat. If folks virtually do have questions, please put them into chat. I think there's just been a dialogue on our virtual side, which is kind of good. Oh, and then we have a CDSS. What was the answer as to why this field is not required?
Yeah,
just wasn't-
we were never given a
Here,
response.
it's automation, yeah. It's not that it's not required, it's an automation system issue. You can go on without clicking it. It's not that it's not required, it's just you can keep going in that box. So they're drafting a letter to explain you should be doing that, even though the system allows you. It's a really old system. I'm no expert in it. It's been a while, so I'm sure some of our county friends can, experienced people know how painful that system is. But as to the conflict, I'll just say generally speaking, so it doesn't take over a whole complete workshop. Happy to follow up outside of this workshop to set something up. We'd love to do something jointly together. And the intention is not about conflict, so we could talk more about that offline, but really overall, it's about California law going further. And so if process is an issue that causes confusion or conflict, but California goes further than the federal law. I'll just leave it at that from OTA's perspective. We don't want to get into a debate about any of that, but the intention of AB 3176 is to go further. And all you lawyers can talk, and we'll move on to the next data point.
A quick shout out. Thank you, Jesse. He's been also attached to a lot of our responses that we give out to counties. And he's been able to provide some information on the federal level, and we provide the state level to hopefully inform the county as much as we possibly can. This is just really quick data on that little button. This little group of counties here are really pushing forward the data dashboards and sharing their information, all their ICWA data with the tribes directly. And this is the data that they willingly shared to say that, no, we need to get better at this little part. So to hear Bea going through those thousands of cases, that is amazing. And we hope that could continue and start down south and kind of keep on going up to the rest of the state. And continue to share this data. And we have like LA County, Ventura, and Imperial County also wanting to share in this data sharing, because these numbers should be public. They represent very real children within the system that tribes need to know where they're at. And one second.
And just as a reminder, I'm sure we all know this, but who owns the data, whose children is the data about? So we're trying to, that's an example of the TA that our team provides, is helping people make that understanding and connection. There's both the legal, there's the cultural, and then there's the practice state, helping people understand bureaucracies and people that work in them, although human, natural response is to limit and be adverse, protective, which we know there's some limitations, but at the end of the day, you don't know what's going on with your kids if you don't have the data of your children. So that's a big area we're really working.
We're good, move on, okay, so the next couple of slides will be how you can either request technical assistance or submit or file a complaint or grievance. First here is Office of Tribal Affairs, and we will field and take any TA request and or complaint. We might not be, again, the agency overseeing programs, but we will take it in and get it to where it needs to go if it doesn't lie within OTA's shop, basically. And then, of course, you also have the contact for the Office of the Foster Care Ombudsperson, and their office is charged with resolving issues related to foster youth and their care, their placement, their services while in foster care, violations of the Foster Youth Bill of Rights, and violations of, I can't see the WIC section that far, but it is on the screen for you guys regarding their placement changes. And the other two that we want to note here, there has not been a specific date provided yet for when the ICWA hotline will launch, but please note that will be another avenue where you can call or email as well, and they'll receive reports from tribal representatives at this time who have a reasonable cause to believe that a county child welfare agency or probation department is failing to perform practices necessary to implement the ICWA, or is in violation of state law incorporating ICWA standards, or is in a violation of state regulations regarding incorporating ICWA standards. And then there's also a social worker empowerment hotline where social workers could also make a phone call to complain about concerns regarding county child welfare agencies, practices, policies, or procedures that endanger the health, safety, or well-being of children. So that's provided for you as well.
Just to add to the hotline, I think there's a proposal which that is being vetted right now, which tribes gave feedback at consultation. And so I think the plan is sometime before the end of the year, hopefully that hotline will be launched. Don't want to give the wrong date, but it's still being worked on. And then I want to identify the one hotline person that will be filling that role. And she's in this room, and throw her on the spot a little bit. That's Emily back there. She's the new ICWA hotline representative that will be launching the hotline. So just she's available to chat or ask her other questions, but she's here really to hear from all of you, so she can take that in as she's getting ready to be the one you're talking to as that hotline launches. So
thank you. And then on the screen right now, there's a website listed where you can go to sign up to receive all county letters or notices specific to child welfare, where the red circle and the red arrow are indicating. And then the green arrow is where you can also go on the same website to review currently published all county letters and all county notices.
Can I share something?
Yes.
Unless you already said it. Did you already see the listserv thing? Oh, so you can subscribe to get the list? Oh, you already said that. Okay, sorry.
she was texting.
I
This
was.
is really great information to have, because sometimes, as a former county social worker myself, I didn't have well, let me see, how can I say this? I could not read all the all county letters at one time. So it's oftentimes my tribal social workers would tell, hey, there's this thing here in this all county letter that says that you really should be doing this. Oh, well, thank you so much for this education. And unfortunately, yes, there are situations where tribes are still having to educate counties. But this letter right here, this area is where you can go and just get all the information that's coming directly up from the state. And every new change will be sent to your email address. So it's really good information.
Just to add to what Donald shared in his past experience, myself, I once oversaw a child welfare agency for a county. And I too felt the same way about all the ACLs. And so I just want to encourage not only tribes, but more so county staff here not to just it's not just only up to the social worker, but all the other layers, making sure that your team is aware of all these ACLs and translating them. I know some counties do it really well and others, need a process. That's a good thing you could do with your ICWA point of contact, is work through these ACLs. Do we have a policy in place? Do we know if we're doing this? Do we have questions about it? And then reach out if you do to our field liaisons to help inform some of those. Some of the ACLs are confusing, some have gray areas, and so really making sure that you digest and go through those ACLs, because they're really meant to meaningfully operationalize how you should practice and the policy.
Do you want to talk about the new ones that are coming up? All the 5 different.
Oh, yes, I can't say too much, but because I don't know the date. But there are 5 to 6, I believe, all county letters coming out that are directed at counties around policy and guidance, specifically from the front end of AB 3176, which is basically California's ICWA, and implementation of how the counties will implement. They're still in the review and getting closer to finalization process. But there will be more specific guidance and tools developed and launching of webinars of those ACLs.
And the most recent ones that were published were with regards to AB 354, as well as timing and frequency of CFTs. So that was posted on the website as well. Okay, so as we continue working, 3 minutes?
Oh, we're only going to break.
Oh, good.
Okay. Well, let's try to move through this
Oh, we have a question.
rather quickly then.
Can we take a question?
We have 3 minutes to wrap it up.
Okay,
We're done.
We have 3 minutes to wrap it up.
okay, let's
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so let's move through this survey then
Yeah.
really quickly. All right. Okay, so when you actually have the survey in front of you, I think it's about roughly 20 pages. But it's broken down into 2 parts. There's the executive summary portion that includes the background and purpose of the survey. And then there's the technical report portion that includes the methods utilized to gather the data that's in the report, as well as the actual survey results, including descriptions of the data. We have 18 minutes. Oh, okay. Okay, that sounds good. Okay, so our baseline survey was launched in March of 2021. And respondents were given 3 months to complete the survey. It was sent out to ICWA points of contact, as well as supervisors and managers and tribal social service directors and representatives. And the survey is intended to be used by the state, counties, and tribes to strengthen ICWA implementation and practice. We will administer it annually to track ICWA implementation progress, to continue to identify areas of improvement, as well as to provide guidance for technical assistance on ensuring ICWA implementation is consistent throughout the state. We had a total of 36 tribes in 34 counties that are represented in the 2021 survey. This is a list of the questions that the survey contained, and it includes major, categories of county and tribal ICWA staff practices, county engagement, questions about resources, support, barriers and factors that promote ICWA compliance, as well as counties rating their own level of technical assistance needs around 12 different ICWA practice domains.
And getting into some of the data, we have the tribal responses where it says, my tribe receives court documentation prior to court hearings. According to our survey, 45% of tribes responding said they are not receiving that documentation. When you ask the county the same thing, my county sends out documentation to tribes prior to all court hearings. 84% are sending that documentation. They're saying that. Yeah. So, and my tribe is invited to every child family team meeting. 38% of tribes are saying they're not being invited. And my county invites tribes to every CFT meeting. 88% are saying that they are inviting tribes to CFTs. Something that we found when we presented this information to our to the TAC meeting was that we need to get more specific on these questions. So instead, we maybe should say, my tribe receives court documentation 10 days prior, like get specific about the times that they receive the information, because I guess if I gave the the document at court, hey, I gave it to you, but that's not necessarily within legal time frames, right? So, and then also with the CFTs, like there should be we got to tweak the questions to say that there's how much time did they get to be invited to the CFT? So these are the kinds of things we're
They don't
looking
line up.
for.
The responses.
And as they saw, yeah, there's an issue with the lining up of what the tribes are saying and what the county is saying. And this is one of the major ones, because this is the Strengthening ICWA Practice Survey. At this time, I'm content with my tribe's relationship with counties around ICWA. 54% are not content, and ask the same thing to the county, and 36% are not content. So we know, again, this shows an example that there's a lot of improvement that can be made in this realm. This next set of data was we asked counties specifically which areas that they would find they could use some assistance in. Again, really interesting that with inquiry and notice, as we know, is a really hot button issue. Folks are saying that there is a low need or a no need at all with inquiry. But when we know, given our TA responses, all the data that we have, the data in regards to ICWA appeals, inquiry and notice are the major issues here. So there's also seems to be a disconnect, and it's different depending on which county you're in and in which region you're in. Even adjacent counties can have very different needs or self-described needs. Another area, reason to believe for reason no, that kind of went all over the area there, and inclusion in CFTs. So we have another question was, in your experience, are there barriers for your county in implementing ICWA? And a lot of folks said that there were challenges such as high staff turnover and caseloads, but within their qualitative, which is their responses they actually wrote out and not filled out a bubble, what they were saying was that an issue that doesn't help with ICWA is when they don't engage tribes early. Not notifying tribes prior to investigations, not inviting tribes to participate, not having county leaders who meet with tribes, and a lack of ICWA training. So we're hearing this from counties as well. And additionally, obviously, we're hearing that from tribes. So we're all sharing the same sort of, we realize what the problem is, but it's still trying to figure out how exactly to address that and figure out ways to solve it. In your experience, what factors promote effective ICWA implementation in your county? The county's responses were a point person for ICWA, having strong relationships between counties and tribes, and strong county leadership. Tribal responses, pretty much the same. Committed tribal leadership, strong relationships between tribes and counties, access to tribal attorneys, and consistent ICWA work groups and roundtables. And the recommendations.
So in the report, you'll find these recommendations after reviewing all of the data and the responses from both counties and tribes. Those recommendations include a review of county ICWA policies, procedures, and practices for all counties. Ongoing training and technical assistance is required, right, to support counties and tribes in building stronger relationships, promoting more consistent and regular communication about the Indian Child Welfare Act, boosting knowledge about each other's child welfare systems, and building a culture of best practices.
And we know this is not groundbreaking. We know you guys already know this. Tribes have been saying this for years, but now we have tangible data to say, look, this is what we have. This is the response. So how can we now make a change for it? Granted, that was the first ever survey. We're going to work on this, the next two, the 2022 coming out pretty soon. And then just keep collecting this data to keep making an argument that more attention needs to be paid towards the Indian Child Welfare. Here are the next steps. Yeah.
So as mentioned, the full report is available. We have the email address listed at the end of the presentation where you can request that. And like Donald also mentioned, based on feedback, once we presented at the Tribal Advisory Committee meeting, we are trying to better define and narrow down some of those questions to get a better response and help us figure out where some of those training, like shortfalls and training gaps are. And because of having to refine the survey questions, we haven't been able to solidify a date yet, but we plan on doing that very, very quickly because we know that we're hoping by presenting this, that more counties and tribes will respond with the next survey. Oh,
Yeah,
oh, okay. We have some questions?
I think Michelle.
I did have a question. My name is Michelle Bailey. I'm the county council for Michigan. And this morning, Director Weldon, you made a comment about the agreements, and I kind of wanted to follow up on that. I've been, as do many other past, but you know, we're confronting this whole ability to contract, inability to contract with the state, and they want us to get community. I don't know what the state laws that they want us to be held accountable to. So kind of thinking about data comments morning, I wasn't quite sure what you're talking about as a county, or if you guys are considering some ways that we can send into the advisory capacity. So, you know, if contracting, whether it's Title 4E or anything else, if we're to try to state, you know, are there thoughts, especially because you guys are in working with tribes, you know, the other agencies and having conversations with, like natural resources, water resources, they aren't in it, you guys are, they don't know what tribes need and why they were community and other things are really problematic. So thinking about how those are very useful other ways, the visibility to contract with the state, or even if you guys were going to assist in the county, the same issues are going to be public there. So I'm just kind of curious what the thoughts were there, and how, to give an example, summary year, doing some what OTA is going to help facilitate relationships in county. So kind of wanted to speak that.
Yeah, I can.
Summarize the question.
Oh. The summarized question was to ask, you know, if we could speak to, or I could speak to the agreements, whether that was state or local, how OTA might be able to assist. And there are several barriers with contracting or agreement types with the state. I get that somewhat right. And then specifically, the second question was about
Well, kind of how.
building relationships, how we do that. So yes, I'll start with the second one because that one's a little bit easier, not as technical. The building all the data and the liaisoning, the field roundtables, the technical assistance, that's the building relationships. And I can give you an example. I think there was some on the slides as well. For example, how do you reach out? You know, those kinds of, that's the building relationships. How do you show up prepared? How do you inform? How are you sharing your data with the tribe so you can have a discussion? How is your leader showing up to meet with the sovereign nation or your designated individual? That's just an example of the many kinds of technical assistance, or I like to call it in the field coaching, that occurs as long as the county is receptive and reaches out. And then internally, we're advising, how do we look at it from a state perspective? So we're front loading when we see there are challenges with some counties to provide technical assistance when there are a lot of systematic themes, rather than waiting for a complaint to come in when there's themes. But we're very early in that emergence. And then when we talk about agreements, I think both are true. We have the ability, we are involved with a couple of counties in helping their discussions and have supported contractors to facilitate discussions, and are there giving our perspective and meeting with counties, those counties individually to help them understand what the tribe is asking for. It is usually always our recommendation that they not, both the county and state, not ask the tribe to waive sovereign immunity. However, there are other people included in that decision, like policy shops and attorney shops that work together. If there's a specific ask, we can definitely advocate and help do the facilitated communication with one tribe, with a particular tribe. So if you're interested, we can definitely do that. We are involved with some specific counties right now. Overall, one of the goals of the ICWA state plan is to explore and think about how we can better facilitate not OTA, but CDSS agreements with tribes, specifically not only Title 4E and 4B, also 1919 agreements. and other types of agreements to help support. Because right now, part of the difficulty and then the nuances is what's called realignment. County, a lot of funds were realigned to the county. And so any new funding that isn't yet realigned, it's a mutual conversation between the state, counties and tribes about how, is there a way to potentially do a carve out or things like that. The hard part is when funds are already aligned to counties, then it becomes a county discussion. I'm saying this in general, I'm not picking any particular area, but those are the bridges and challenges that we experience. And then what we try to do is internally have conversations with those that make the decisions and say, from a tribal perspective, here's OTA's advisement. Those are the kinds of words we utilize. And this is why we can point you to code sections or the cultural worldview or the practice worldview.
Can I say something?
Yes, Tamara can have.
So along those lines, I think, you know, people like you, Michelle, and others who are experts in federal Indian law, contracting, clauses that tribes can agree to and can't agree to, that kind of information, honestly, will really help inform this process. One of my goals, cross my fingers, is to carve out pathways and try to work flexibly within our technical assistance to really see how far we can go, acknowledging that there are lots of different factors, lots of different interests. But, you know, the truth of the matter is, I was telling Stephanie the other day, I said, you need a lot of really well-versed tribal government attorneys to like be in your ear, because there are just areas of practice and nuances that even myself as a somewhat, I would say, moderately experienced ICWA attorney, I just, you know, you don't have that unless you do contracting all the time and you understand what's at stake for the tribes. So I think, you know, in asking for those agreements, coming to the table, sharing why things work legally and why they don't work, and giving your reasoning and rationale supported by federal policy and law is always very helpful in us supporting state government and getting pathways carved out.
And we had an activity plan, but I think we could just keep going with the questions because we got quite a few questions out there. So, yeah.
And to further add to that, that's why it's really important to hear your thoughts about priorities. That because I want to just share that our director, Kim Johnson, is listening. And that's really why she's supportive of this strategic plan and hearing more about what OTA's function and how we can strengthen and what that looks like. Because we're their advisory, in a way, practice advisory as Indian people, as former practitioners, you know, to really streamline that. And so there are key areas like agreements or the state better learning how to do those agreements because it's still fairly new. You know, being on the other side, working for my tribe and working on Title 4E, it's a very, very heavy lift. And I worked in a county system overseeing a 4E agency. So there's a lot there to ask. And so I think continued hearing that, and we will reflect that back up to when we get to closer to finalization. And she is listening, and the department. There are a lot of folks who take our advisement very seriously. And it's also a challenge.
Also your advocacy too, though.
Yeah.
You're definitely knocking on the door saying, hey,
Yes.
this is going on. So, yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, I was a social worker for 20 years and now I'm on the council. And I know when I was a worker, we annually had HIPAA training. We had civil rights training. What about an ICWA training? They can do, workers can do online. They have to complete it annually. And, you know, at least that, I just thought of that, so I thought I'd share. I don't know if there's any, if that's implemented yet or
Yeah.
not, or-
So Councilwoman saying that there should be an annual kind of online ICWA training. That it's nothing else. Because we know that when workers first start into the county, they get that core training, which is a full day training. But as far as any additional training, that's really on the individual worker who realizes that ICWA is the gold standard of social worker and wants to do the best they possibly can. And so they're going to keep on learning in order to make sure that happens. But as far as a requirement, that's
I think
something.
I was the president.
Yeah.
So Fresno County, that was the requirement. You have to complete it, that was part of your evals and everything else, so that's.
Yeah, we want to encourage counties to do more than what the minimum core is. However, where tribes are concerned is when there's consultation, like we just recently had to have your tribe's voice to say, the state needs to. I'm not giving you any words. I'm just saying, what I think I hear you saying is that you would like the state to have more training and a longer training. We hear that a lot from both tribes and counties in general. The core training isn't enough. It's a good start, but we need there to be more ICWA training. And I'm just reflecting what all of you have said, and I know that to be true. So continue to voice that at consultations, so it can be put on the record, and we will feed that into as a part of our recommendation for the plan.
And I know it is 3:15 right now, but you
Any
guys.
last,
Yeah.
we're happy to stay if there's
Oh,
any
we have
last
one last
questions.
final question, I guess. Looks urgent.
All right, yes.
I just asked a question in general around, like, how to navigate as a county worker, and I know you and I have talked, about this all, but
Right.
county worker feeling the push back from upper county administration about reaching out to OTA as it branches to DSS, how to navigate that, because I feel like there's a barrier, or a misunderstanding of OTA as part of the state system who oversees our system. I'm just wondering if you guys have ran into that with other counties, like workers with other county child welfare agencies. Push back.
There is an empowerment hotline that exists. Yeah, well, but yeah, the question was from a county worker, how do you continue to advocate when you're involved in a system that is trying to prevent you from advocating to make sure that you're doing ICWA, but
Or there's
Yeah.
whistleblower impact.
yeah.
Just to take this sensitive question, I'm sure others have experienced this. The question really is how do we gain access to OTA if folks are not necessarily sure in the counties what OTA's role is? So with that, anyone can access us from child welfare because that's our role. Our role is to help support and advise, so that way it doesn't end up in the courtroom, and we can create the vision and the goal of, and the commitment CDSS that you heard several of our key leadership folks making that their commitment was that. We know there's institutions, agencies, and cultures that struggle with that. So I'll just say that we need to be more thoughtful about that and think about how we message that. And that's an important piece of our plan, is we need to make sure we're really clear about what that looks like.
Yeah, we're involved in your break right now. We don't want to take up any of your time, but please track us down if you got any further questions. Oh yeah, and I got 3 hardback ICWA desk references,
Oh.
only 3. So if anyone is looking for one,
Thank you,
Oh,
everyone.
Hi.
Thank you to those who joined online.
I'm here for one of those.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.